Okay, get this. Can you believe just like 8 minutes of really intense anger could actually affect your blood vessels for almost 40 minutes after?
Wow. 8 minutes for 40 minutes of impact.
Yeah, it sounds pretty wild, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But there's research from Columbia University showing just that. It really makes you stop and think, how these short bursts might be adding up to serious heart problems down the line.
It definitely shifts how you look at it. We usually focus on anger as, well, an emotional state, right?
Yeah,
But this kind of research really brings home the physical side of things. It's much more than just feeling hot under the collar.
absolutely. And that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're going beyond just being annoyed.
Right.
We're exploring the hidden physical toll, how anger messes with relationships, those thought patterns that actually fuel it.
The sneaky ones.
Yeah, and the real medical link between anger and heart health.
Mm.
And then, importantly, how maybe we can turn that intense energy into something, well, positive.
Okay. So we've got research, expert insights. Sounds like a plan.
It's exactly the mission for everyone listening is to
Mhm.
get a better handle on how anger might be affecting you, pick up some real practical strategies to manage it,
Yeah.
for better health, better relationships, all that good stuff.
So where should we start? Maybe with those physical effects, the ones
Mhm.
that aren't always so obvious, beyond just feeling tense or your face getting red.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
So when anger flares up, it's like your body's alarm system just goes haywire.
Uh-huh. Fight or flight.
Right. Your heart races, blood pressure shoots up, and you get flooded with stress hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline.
The classic response. It's amazing how it kicks in whether the threat is real, like a saber-toothed tiger, or just someone cutting you off in traffic.
It really is. And that Columbia study you mentioned, the one led by Dr. Shimbo, that's where it gets super interesting.
Right. Tell me more about that one.
They found that even a short, like 8-minute anger episode messes with how well your blood vessels can relax and widen.
Okay.
And the really striking part, that effect isn't just for a second. It can last for up to 40 minutes afterwards.
40 minutes from just 8 minutes of anger. That's significant.
It is, isn't it? And if you think about that happening repeatedly, well, these little hits on your blood vessels could, over time, contribute to atherosclerosis.
Ah, the hardening of the artery.
Exactly. Which we know is a big setup for heart attacks and strokes.
So chronic anger isn't just a feeling. It's putting sustained physical strain on your cardiovascular system. But the damage doesn't stop there, does it?
No way. Think about tension headaches. The ones that grip the back of your head.
Uh-huh.
Turns out the muscle tension that comes with anger can be a major trigger for those and that upset stomach feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Anger can seriously disrupt your digestion,
Right.
lead to all sorts of gut problems.
And sleep. We can't forget sleep. The data really points to a strong link. Higher anger levels often mean more trouble sleeping.
Makes sense.
Yeah, people who struggle with anger are much more likely to have issues falling asleep, staying asleep, and then it becomes a vicious cycle, right? Poor sleep makes it harder to manage emotions the next day.
It's like your body's keeping score. And it can show up in weird ways too, like skin problems, eczema flare-ups, or even a weaker immune system.
All because of those constant stress hormones floating around.
Exactly. But here's the useful part. Our bodies often give us little warning signs before we hit the boiling point.
Yes, they do. Little signals that anger is brewing. The trick is learning to actually notice them. What kind of things should people look out for?
Well, your heart starting to beat faster is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Or that feeling of your muscles tensing up, jaw, shoulders, maybe clenching your fists without realizing it.
Yeah, the jaw clench is classic.
Totally. Or feeling flushed in your face or neck. Even just noticing your breathing getting shallow. Catching those early signals is key.
It really is. That early awareness gives you a window, doesn't it? A chance to use some calming strategies before the anger really takes hold, like spotting a spark before it becomes a wildfire.
Okay, so the physical toll is clear, but anger can also be, well, devastating for our relationships. It's described sometimes as an emotional virus.
That's a powerful way to put it, and it really captures how it spreads,
Yeah.
right? Affecting partners, kids, friends, coworkers.
Everyone around you.
Yeah. And the research seems to highlight this kind of triple threat that uncontrolled anger poses.
Right, like communication just shuts down. People get scared to say what they really think or feel because they don't want to set you off.
Exactly. And then trust starts to wear thin. People wonder if they're emotionally safe, maybe even physically safe around you.
Which leads to pulling away, right? Emotional distance,
Mm-hmm.
isolation. It's a really damaging cycle.
And very often, what we see as anger on the surface is actually covering up something deeper, something more vulnerable.
Like what?
Well, feelings like fear or hurt, maybe insecurity, even shame, it's like anger becomes a shield because showing those softer feelings feels too risky. But that shield prevents real connection.
That really hits home, especially thinking about kids. If they see a lot of angry outbursts, that can create so much anxiety, so much insecurity for them.
Oh, absolutely. It can lead to behavioral problems for them, and worse, they might learn those patterns themselves and carry them into their own adult lives. It's a serious ripple effect.
And it plays out at work, too, maybe more subtly sometimes.
Definitely. One blow up in a meeting can change how people see you, your competence, your character.
Right. Opportunities might dry up, P morale goes down, your whole reputation can take a hit.
And it's not just the big explosions, is it? You mentioned that emotional virus idea.
Yeah.
There's this concept of emotional contagion, too.
What's that?
It's like one person's anger can literally infect the mood of a room or a team. It just spreads and creates this negative, tense vibe for everyone.
Ugh. Yeah, I think we've all felt that.
But the good news is there are things we can actually do about it. Strategies to break the cycle. What did the sources suggest that works?
Well, deep breathing, like really deep diaphragmatic breaths, seems really powerful, especially combined with consciously relaxing your muscles.
Okay.
Apparently doing that can calm the physical stress response pretty quickly, like in under 90 seconds sometimes.
That's fascinating because it directly targets the body's reaction, doesn't it? Slowing the breath, relaxing the muscles. It tells your nervous system the threat is passing. It dials down the intensity.
Yeah, and I like the idea of couples maybe learning these techniques together, creating a supportive way to handle things when emotions run high.
That's a great point. Building shared tools.
But it's also crucial to say, right? If anger feels totally out of control, if it's really hurting your relationships,
Yeah.
getting professional help isn't weakness. It's actually a really smart, proactive step.
Absolutely essential in those cases. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the thoughts that often feed the anger. Because it's not always just the event itself, but how we interpret it.
Right, this is key. It taps into that core idea from cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT,
Which is?
that our thoughts create our feelings. So if we want to manage anger, we need to look at the thinking behind it. It's about cognitive restructuring, identifying and changing those thought patterns that trigger or ramp up the anger.
And there are some common thinking traps, right? Cognitive distortions that are particularly good at fueling anger. What were some of those?
Mind reading is a big one.
Yeah.
Assuming you know someone's negative intentions, like if someone's late, thinking they just don't respect my time, instead of considering other possibilities.
Right. Jumping to negative conclusions.
Yeah. Then there's collecting straws, letting tiny annoyances build up and build up until you snap over something small.
The straw that breaks the camel's back.
Exactly. And watch out for words like always, never, should, must. They create really rigid, unrealistic expectations.
Those absolute terms. They set you up for disappointment and frustration. It often links back to low frustration tolerance, doesn't it? And maybe a bit of entitlement, that feeling that things should just go my way.
Totally. Which can make us see personal attacks where none exist. Like the driver who cuts you off, maybe they're just careless, not deliberately disrespecting you.
So how do we challenge these thoughts? Reframing comes in here, right?
Yes. Reframing is about consciously questioning those automatic negative thoughts and replacing them with something more balanced, more realistic.
Got an example.
Sure, instead of this stupid machine never works, try shifting to, okay, this machine seems to be malfunctioning right now. It sounds small, but it changes the emotional temperature.
It takes the personal accusation out of it, makes it less of an attack.
Right. And humor. Apparently, humor can be a good diffuser if it's not sarcasm.
Right, sarcasm can just make things worse.
But like picturing someone annoying you as, I don't know, a cartoon character or something silly, it can create a bit of distance.
A little mental aikido. And just reframing the intensity helps too, right? Instead of, oh, this is awful, maybe try, okay, this is frustrating, but getting furious isn't going to fix it.
Yeah, dialing it down. And I really like that powerful question to ask yourself. Is this worth my health?
Ooh, that's a good one. Puts things in perspective quickly.
Definitely. And also shifting how we talk. Moving from blaming you statements, you always do this, to I statements that own your feelings. I feel frustrated when.
Much less confrontational. Opens the door for actual conversation. These cognitive tools are so useful because they tackle the root, how we process what's happening.
Okay, so we've covered the mind, the relationships. But let's get back to the really serious physical stuff. The heart connection. This isn't just talk, it's actual medical fact.
It really is. We know anger spikes heart rate and blood pressure short term, but the research now shows deeper, more lasting effects on the cardiovascular system. The links between frequent, intense anger and serious heart problems are becoming undeniable.
Like that inflammation we mentioned. When you get really angry, it triggers this inflammatory response in the body.
Exactly. And over time, that chronic inflammation contributes to plaque buildup in the arteries. It damages the endothelium, the inner lining of the blood vessels.
And then there's the whole nervous system response. The sympathetic nervous system kicking into high gear, pumping out adrenaline, cortisol.
Right. Which is fine for a genuine emergency, but when it's happening all the time because of chronic anger, those stress hormones actually damage blood vessels. It paves the way for high blood pressure, heart disease, even stroke.
Wow. And it can even mess with the heart's electrical rhythm, causing arrhythmias.
Potentially, yes. Especially in people who might already have some underlying heart issues. Anger can destabilize that electrical system, plus it increases blood clotting factors,
Yeah.
meaning your blood gets stickier, more likely to form clots. And clots blocking blood vessels are exactly what cause heart attacks and strokes. It's like a perfect storm for your heart.
It really sounds like it.
Which is why it's so significant that doctors are now seeing anger management as a real part of cardiac care. Remember Dr. Shimbo saying, anger is not benign?
Yeah.
Cardiologists are actually talking to heart patients about managing anger right alongside prescribing medication or suggesting lifestyle changes.
And those stats you mentioned earlier are just terrifying. What was it? A 230% higher risk of heart attack?
And a 370% higher risk of stroke in the 2 hours after an intense anger episode.
2 hours? That's a long window.
It is, and it's because even after you feel calmer, your cardiovascular system is still reeling. Vessels might still be constricted, inflammation is up, clotting factors are high, you're physiologically vulnerable.
And if you're chronically angry, it's like constant little attacks on your heart,
Yeah.
right? These micro assaults that add up silently until something major happens.
Precisely. It's often damage that happens under the radar until it's too late.
Man, that really drives home the need to take this seriously for our physical health.
Yeah.
But it's not all bad news, is it? The sources also suggest anger isn't always destructive. It can be channeled.
That's such an important point. We need to understand anger's evolutionary job. It's basically an alarm system.
An alarm for what?
For when your boundaries are crossed, or your core values feel violated, or there's an urgent problem that needs addressing. It's a survival instinct, really. It motivates us to protect what matters.
Okay, so it has a purpose. The key, then, is how we express it, moving away from aggression or just stuffing it down.
Exactly. Towards assertiveness, which means communicating your needs, your boundaries clearly and respectfully, but without causing harm to yourself or others.
And historically, anger has fueled positive change,
Yeah.
right? Think about social movements.
Absolutely. Constructively channeled anger can be incredibly powerful for fighting injustice. And on a personal level, it can be like your psyche's loudspeaker, as one source put it.
A loudspeaker. How so?
It shines a spotlight on what you truly value, what's really important to you. And if handled well, it can actually strengthen relationships by highlighting unmet needs or communication issues that need fixing.
Okay, so how do we make that shift from reactive anger to constructive anger? What are the steps?
Well, first, try to pinpoint the specific value that feels like it's being stepped on when you get angry.
Okay, identify the trigger value.
Then, focus on communicating assertively. Use those I statements we talked about. I feel X when Y happens because Z.
Own your feelings. State the issue. Explain the impact.
Precisely. Humor can help sometimes, gently, but again, avoid sarcasm like the plague. Strategic timeouts are also vital. Giving yourself space to cool down before you react.
Taking a break, yeah.
And finally, forgiveness, which isn't about letting the other person off the hook, necessarily. It's more about freeing yourself from carrying that anger and resentment, releasing the need to punish.
That takes practice, I imagine.
It all does. It's an ongoing process. It starts with recognizing those early physical warning signs, then building your own personal anger toolkit.
Toolkit, like what?
Whatever works for you. Deep breathing, reframing those thoughts, maybe going for a walk, journaling. The goal isn't to get rid of anger entirely. That's probably impossible, maybe even undesirable.
Right.
The goal is to learn how to channel its energy productively.
Yeah, the American Psychological Association points out that anger, in the right dose, can be useful. It motivates us to fix things, find meaning.
Exactly. And Ethan Kross, the emotion psychologist, says the aim is transformation, not elimination. Even the NHS frames it as a normal, healthy emotion that only becomes a problem when we lose control over how we express it.
So bottom line, see anger as information, a signal, something to learn from. It's part of growing your emotional intelligence, which is definitely a journey, not a destination.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground. The real physical harm anger can do, how it corrodes relationships, the sneaky thought patterns behind it, the serious heart risks, but also its potential for good.
It's complex, isn't it? Far more than just being mad.
Absolutely. And the big takeaway seems to be that managing anger isn't about suppression. It's about understanding and channeling, recognizing the signals, choosing constructive responses.
Exactly. It's about developing emotional intelligence around this powerful feeling for your own health and for healthier connections with others.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. What if you started viewing your anger not as an enemy, but as information? What is it telling you about your needs, your boundaries, your values?
That shift in perspective can be powerful.
Seeing it as part of a journey of self-awareness, not aiming for perfection, just progress. Paying attention might just unlock deeper well-being and stronger relationships.
Well said. It's an ongoing process, but definitely a worthwhile one.
Well, thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.